The day we were supposed to get our marriage license was the day I crashed my car. I called Ethan over and over, but the phone just rang until it went to voicemail. I had no choice but to go to the hospital by myself, limping and in pain. The irony was finding him there, fussing over my stepsister Chloe, who had done nothing more than sprain her ankle. Before I could even get a word out, Ethan's accusations started. "What are you doing here? Are you following me?" he'd asked, his voice sharp. "We can get the marriage license whenever. Chloe's foot is the priority right now." In that moment, he didn't even seem to notice that I was the one leaning on a set of hospital-issued crutches. In the end, I let it go, stepping back so he could play the hero for Chloe. But later, he swore to me, "I only see her as a sister, that's all." It had been a full week since that day. 7 days since Ethan and I were supposed to start our lives as husband and wife. In that time, he hadn't answered a single one of my calls or texts. He hadn't come home. Today, he finally walked through the door, but not with an apology. He came in hot, his brow furrowed with annoyance. "I already told you Chloe is in a bad way. I'm staying at the hospital with her, and I'll be back when she's better. Why do you have to keep calling and rushing me every single day? Getting a piece of paper from the courthouse isn't that big of a deal. Besides, Chloe is your little sister. As her older sister, you don't seem to care about her at all." I wanted to tell him that I was the one who had been in a car accident. I wanted to say that while getting the certificate might not be urgent in the grand scheme of things, becoming his wife was something I deeply wanted. I wanted to explain that my calls weren't meant to rush him, but to check if he was okay. But Ethan never gave me the chance to say any of it. He just kept going. "By the way," he said, his eyes narrowing, "you claimed you were in a car accident at the hospital that day, but you look perfectly fine to me now. Were you just lying to get my attention?" The suspicion in his face was a physical blow. If he had just taken a moment, bent down, and lifted the leg of my pants, he would have seen the thick bandage wrapped tightly around my calf. But he didn't. I remembered a time not long after we first moved in together, when I'd tripped over a stool and gotten a small, silly bruise on my leg. Ethan had been so distraught, he actually had tears in his eyes. That night, he stayed up until dawn, wrapping every sharp corner of our furniture in soft padding. Now, only 3 years later, I was genuinely hurt, and he chose not to see it. Maybe he saw the look on my face because his tone softened just a little. "All right, honey, I know you're just worried about me. Let's not fight, okay?" In the past, this is when I would have started a fight, aired all my grievances, and then eventually forgiven him. But now, seeing the cool indifference in his eyes, I just felt tired. I gave up the argument before it started and nodded quietly. But he wasn't finished. "By the way, can you find some time today to get the guest room ready? Chloe is being discharged tomorrow, and I told her she could come stay with us for a while." I froze. Ethan knew, better than anyone, how terrible my relationship with Chloe was. I had grown up in a happy home, with parents who loved me and a comfortable life. Chloe's existence shattered all of that. During college, my parents, who had always been so in love, started fighting. I eventually found out why. My father had another family. Another daughter, Chloe, who he had allowed to be raised in an orphanage. Driven by a strange curiosity, I went to that orphanage to see her. That's where I met Ethan. He had grown up there too, and after getting into university, he came back every weekend to volunteer, to give back. I didn't interact much with Chloe back then, but Ethan and I became fast friends. He was so positive and full of life. He had a kind of energy that just drew me in. Eventually, my mother stopped fighting with my father. I thought they had worked things out, that life would go back to normal. But one ordinary weekend, my mother jumped from the top of our apartment building. The paramedics couldn't save her. Through that horrible, dark time, it was Ethan who stayed by my side. With his gentle care, I slowly started to heal from the grief of losing my mom. Not long after she died, my father married Chloe's mother and brought them both to live in our house. From that day on, Chloe and I were declared enemies. Ethan knew every detail of our rivalry. He knew how much I despised her. After we got together, I used to complain to him about her constantly. He would join in, calling her names right alongside me. And he promised that after we graduated, He would work hard to build a life for us, or no one, especially not Chloe, could ever bully me again. And he kept that promise. As soon as he graduated, he got a great job at a top company with a fantastic salary. And the first thing he did was move me out of that house. After I graduated and started working at my family's company to claim the shares my mother had left me, it was Ethan who coached me through the complexities of the corporate world. My father, unhappy that I'd chosen a boyfriend with no family connections, tried to force us to break up. Shockingly, Chloe took my side, pleading with my father and convincing him to let Ethan and me stay together. As a courtesy, I took Ethan to treat Chloe to dinner. That was the first time they met. If I had known then how close they would become, I would have never, ever introduced them. Despite my protests, Chloe moved into our house the very next day. The moment Ethan walked in, he started giving orders. "Honey, hurry up and make some breakfast for Chloe. The doctor said she needs to eat nutritious food to rest and recover." I didn't want to fight with him. I told him I had an emergency at work and started to get ready to leave. But Chloe grabbed my sleeve, her eyes welling up with tears. "Sister, don't you want me here? It's the weekend. I know you don't have work. If you don't want me to stay, I'll leave right now. Please don't be upset." Ethan exploded. "Ava, Chloe is sick and you won't even help her with breakfast? How can you be so spoiled?" I was so stunned I almost laughed. I looked directly at Ethan. "Spoiled? Shouldn't you, of all people, know whether I'm spoiled or not?" When we first moved in together, I wanted to surprise him. I spent weeks secretly learning how to cook, burning my hands countless times. On his birthday, I managed to prepare an entire multi-course dinner and even baked a cake. Ethan was so moved he broke down crying. He knelt at my feet, holding my hands, and swore he would never let me do such rough work again, that he would spoil me like a princess for the rest of our lives. From that day forward, he took over all the cooking and cleaning, making sure my hands were pristine. Remembering this, Ethan coughed awkwardly. Then, his face hardened again. "Fine, go to work. I'll make breakfast for Chloe myself." Hearing that, I felt a pang in my chest. I couldn't remember the last time Ethan had cooked a meal for me, but I didn't want to argue anymore. The only response I gave him was the sound of the front door closing behind me. I went to my best friend's house and we had a wild 2 days. I didn't go home all weekend, and Ethan never once tried to contact me. When the new week started, I couldn't drive to work because of my leg, so I took a cab. To my surprise, when I left the office that evening, Ethan's car was parked downstairs. He waved at me from the driver's seat. It was the middle of rush hour, and getting a taxi was nearly impossible. The fact that he came to pick me up made my heart do a little jump. I walked towards him, a smile starting to form on my face. But when I opened the passenger door, I saw Chloe sitting there, a triumphant look in her eyes. She said to me, "Sis, with my leg like this, it's just not convenient. I'll have to trouble brother Ethan to drive me to and from work for a while. And I get car sick, so I can only sit in the front. I hope you don't mind, sis." I looked at Ethan, who just gave an awkward shrug. "Chloe is your sister, Ava. Just let her have her way." It was rush hour, and a crowd of my colleagues was streaming out of the building. To avoid a scene, I said nothing and climbed into the back seat. On the way home, Ethan and Chloe laughed and chatted in the front, while I sat alone in the back, my mind drifting. When Ethan got his first paycheck after graduation, he bought a little electric scooter, saying it would make it easier to pick me up from work. From then on, he drove me to and from the office every single day, rain or shine. If the weather was bad, he'd feel terrible, blaming himself for not being able to afford a car yet. He promised he would work harder and buy one as soon as possible, so I wouldn't have to face the wind and rain. He did eventually buy a car. At first, he still drove me to and from work. But then, there was the first time he couldn't pick me up because of overtime. Gradually, the excuses piled up. Meetings, business trips, endless reasons. So, I got my own driver's license, bought my own car, and learned to commute by myself. I couldn't remember the last time Ethan had picked me up from work, but now, for Chloe, he was suddenly playing chauffeur again. As angry as I was, a free ride was a free ride. Just like that, a week passed. Chloe's foot finally healed, and she moved back to her own place. Ethan told me he had rescheduled our marriage registration for the upcoming weekend. Let's give this another chance, I thought. I truly believed everything would go back to the way it was. The day of the appointment came quickly. We were all ready to go, standing by the door, when Ethan's phone rang. He came back from the call with a stressed look on his face. There was a problem with a new project he was in charge of, and a client was furious. The company needed him to go to the site immediately and handle it. I felt a wave of disappointment. "Does it have to be right now?" I asked. He coughed uncomfortably, and then his voice suddenly sharpened. "Ava, can't you be more understanding? This is my job, not some game." I didn't understand why he was suddenly so angry. It took me a moment to process it. "Oh, okay, go ahead," I said, turning to go back to my room. As I passed him, he pulled me into a hug. "Honey, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have snapped at you. I'm just so stressed with work. Thank you for being so understanding. I promise I'll come back as soon as this is resolved." With that, he rushed out the door, but he didn't come back. By nightfall, I was still waiting. Lying on the couch, I was scrolling aimlessly through my phone when I saw a new post from Chloe. The photo was taken at a pet hospital. In the picture, someone was gently holding a small puppy, their head bowed. The caption read, "Thank you for coming to the hospital with me." Even though I could only see half of his face, I knew it was Ethan. Ethan hated anything with fur. I've loved puppies my whole life, but my father never let me have one. When I moved out to live with Ethan, the first thing I did was buy the puppy I had always dreamed of. When Ethan came home from work and saw it, he wasn't happy. "Where did this dog come from?" he asked, a look of disgust on his face. He said he couldn't stand pets, couldn't stand the thought of dog hair all over the house. To keep him happy, I reluctantly gave the puppy away. He bought me lots of stuffed puppy dolls to make up for it, but they weren't the same. To this day, I regret not having a real puppy of my own. And now, the man who was supposed to be getting a marriage license with me, the man who claimed to hate dogs, was holding Chloe's dog and taking her to the vet. I started to wonder if I should really go through with this marriage. It was time to think, really think, about my relationship with Ethan. It was very late when Ethan finally came home. As soon as he walked in, he apologized, saying he had been swamped all day and that with everything on his plate recently, getting our marriage certificate would probably have to be postponed again. "Okay," I said. "We'll do it when you're less busy." My tone must have been too calm, too accepting. Ethan finally looked up at me, a frown creasing his forehead. "Ava, you're not angry, are you? Who do you think I'm doing all of this for? Isn't it all to give you a better life?" How interesting. When Ethan first started working, he gave me his salary card, promising to work hard to give me the best of everything. But later, as he got promoted and I began working at my family's company, he took the card back. "Honey, I know you're an independent woman," he'd said at the time. "I'll hold on to this for now. If you ever need anything, you can always ask me. Remember, I'll always be your safety net." But since I started earning my own money, I had never asked him for a single thing. I laughed a little. Is it really for me? It seems like it's all for Chloe. Last month, for Chloe's birthday, Ethan had bought her a limited edition designer handbag she had been wanting for ages. I'd even fought with him about it. He claimed he only bought it out of respect for me because Chloe was my sister. He even called me petty. But Chloe and I were like oil and water. There was no respect to be had between us. Last year on my birthday, Ethan was away on a business trip. There were no gifts, no surprises. He just called and asked what I wanted, saying he would pay for it. I didn't ask for anything. Ethan's face went stiff, a flush of anger creeping up his neck. "Don't twist my words," he snapped, before slamming the door and storming out of the apartment. I didn't want to stay in that house for another second. I decided to move back to my own place for a while to clear my head. It was a small condo I had bought for myself before we had decided to get married. I never thought I would actually have to use it. While I was packing, I found a gift box tucked away in the back of a drawer. It immediately took me back to the time just after we graduated. I had just started my first job. Ethan asked me what I wanted as a gift. After thinking about it for a long time, I told him I wanted a nice watch. He nodded, but then weeks went by with no mention of it. Just when I thought he had forgotten, he came home from work one day and mysteriously handed me a box. Inside was a Cartier watch. He told me he had been browsed social media and noticed that a lot of girls liked this particular brand. At the time, most of his income went to our living expenses, and he had very little savings. He had secretly taken on a freelance project for 2 months and, combining that money with what little he had saved, bought me the watch. I was so moved I couldn't speak. I was just so happy, so grateful to have met him, so grateful that he could treat me so well. I promised myself I would be even better to him in the future. After I got the watch, I could never bring myself to wear it. I kept it treasured in the drawer. Now, I wore much more expensive watches, and the deep emotion that Ethan and I had once poured into this single object was gone. Before I left, I threw the watch into the trash can. I took only my essential belongings and walked out without looking back. It wasn't until the third day after I'd left that Ethan finally called me. "Ava, where are you?" he asked. I got straight to the point. "Let's break up." After I said it, I expected him to immediately start pleading, to try and win me back. But the other end of the line was silent. When I looked at my phone, I saw that the call had already ended. A moment later, a text from him came through. "I'll contact you later. Urgent matter. Busy right now." Forget it. I would deal with it later. After all, my company and Ethan's company had a joint project coming up soon. My family's company had been passed down from my grandfather to my father. Both of my parents held shares. My mother had made a will early on, and after she died, all of her shares were transferred to me. After I graduated, I joined the company at an entry-level position. Later, Chloe also joined the company after her graduation, and the two of us slowly became locked in a fierce rivalry. Lately, I had been making a name for myself at the company, so my father and stepmother decided to try and suppress me by assigning me a particularly challenging project. Coincidentally, the client for this project was Ethan's company. I figured I would just wait until the project was over. So I threw myself completely into my work. I told Ethan that I would be staying near the company if I had to work overtime. At first, he said that I had finally grown up and wasn't so clingy anymore, but gradually he seemed to sense that something had changed. I was no longer asking about him or initiating contact, which made him feel a bit uneasy. A week later, Ethan showed up unannounced to pick me up from work. There was a bouquet of flowers sitting in the passenger seat. "Happy birthday, honey." Oh, so it was my birthday. I was just about to offer a polite thank you when Chloe's voice piped up from the back seat. "Sis, this is the Phalaenopsis orchid you love the most. Brother Ethan and I had to go to several flower shops to find it. Do you like it? Brother Ethan is so good to you." Only then did I notice Chloe in the back. But I've never liked Phalaenopsis orchids. I forced a smile. "Thank you for the trouble, but I don't like these at all. Give them to Chloe," I said, passing the bouquet into the back seat. Chloe's face stiffened, and then her eyes started to redden. "Sister, are you still angry with me?" Truthfully, I wasn't angry at all. I had long since stopped caring about Ethan and Chloe. But Ethan didn't see it that way. He yelled, "Enough, Ava. Chloe and I went to all this trouble for your birthday, and you're just going to throw a tantrum?" I looked at him, bewildered. "If you're sick, you should go to the hospital." Then I suddenly remembered something. "Oh, by the way, I have some work I need to finish. I'm going back to the office. Thanks for the flowers, but I won't be joining you." I closed the car door and walked back towards the company building. The moment the door clicked shut, I heard the loud roar of an engine as Ethan's car sped away. Today was the day I was scheduled to go to Ethan's company to discuss the collaboration. After I finished presenting my proposal, the room broke into a round of applause. I thought the project was a sure thing. But when I looked at their project manager, I saw that he was frowning, his expression one of clear disapproval. A knot of unease formed in my stomach. Sure enough, during his concluding remarks, he spoke at length. And just as he was about to reject my proposal, there was a knock on the door. It was Chloe, who announced that she had a more sincere proposal to present. In the end, thanks to Chloe's new proposal, our company successfully won the project. Putting aside my personal feelings, since Chloe did help our company secure the project, I thought I should go and thank her. When I got back to our office, I went to her workspace, but she wasn't there. I decided to wait for her on the couch. Soon, I heard Chloe's voice coming from the hallway. She was on the phone. Brother Ethan, thank you so much for your help this time, telling me your boss's budget was a lifesaver. As a thank you, let me treat you to dinner tonight. All right, it's a date. 7 o'clock tonight, the usual place. See you there. Chloe pushed the door open and was met with my incredulous stare. So that's why her proposal was so perfect. Ethan had secretly helped her. I had wanted to win this project so badly that I had even approached Ethan for help, the only time I had ever asked him for a professional favor. And what did he say at the time? He had righteously refused me, even lecturing me about not resorting to underhanded tactics and urging me to compete fairly. How laughable. So this was what he called fair competition. Over the weekend, my father called me home for dinner, which was unusual. Normally, unless it was a holiday or an occasion where we needed to present a united family front, I never went home, and my father never seemed to care. Even though I knew my father couldn't have suddenly developed a conscience, I still felt a flicker of hope. When I arrived, the house was buzzing with activity, and to my surprise, Ethan was there too. I looked at him, confused. Chloe quickly explained that she had invited him since he had recently been such a great help to the family with the new project. My father and stepmother wanted to thank him personally, so that was why my father had asked me to come home. Not wanting to watch them all celebrate together, I said, "Oh, welcome. You all carry on. I have some work to do," and started to head upstairs. "Stop!" My father's voice boomed. "Look at the state of you. Ethan is here, and this is how you behave? Besides, everyone is helping out downstairs. What work could you possibly have? We haven't seen any results from your work anyway. If you can't even do your job properly, can't you at least help with the cooking?" Even though there was a maid and Chloe and my stepmother were lounging on the sofa, I was the one expected to go to the kitchen. I was about to retort when Ethan suddenly grabbed my arm. "Uncle, don't be angry. It's bad for your health. It was Ava's fault. I'll talk to her when we get home." Then he turned to me. "All right, let's go cook together." He started to pull me toward the kitchen. I looked at him with a mocking expression. "Since you enjoy cooking so much, you can stay here and cook all you want." I pushed him away and walked out of the house. Ethan chased after me, but from behind, Chloe called out, "Brother Ethan!" He gave me an apologetic look and said, "Honey, wait for me." Then he turned and went back inside. I didn't stop. It was only after I'd left the gated community that I remembered my car was in the shop. In this neighborhood, it would take a while to get a cab. So I started walking slowly down the familiar road. As I walked, tears started to fall. I missed my mom, and I missed the old Ethan. The first time I brought him home, my father had disapproved of our relationship. I had run away from home in anger, and Ethan had followed me the entire way. In the end, he held me, his eyes red, and said, "Ava, I will work hard to prove myself. I'll prove to your father that you made the right choice. Please, believe in me." Now he had indeed proven himself, but he had forgotten the promise he made that day. I didn't want to drag this out any longer. I sent him a message. "Ethan, let's just end it here." As soon as the message sent, my phone rang. It was him. "Ava, where are you? Didn't I tell you to wait for me at the door? Don't be so impulsive. You were the one in the wrong just now. Today was supposed to be a celebration, and everything I did to help Chloe secure the project was for your benefit. Hurry back and apologize to your father. As for this breakup nonsense, I'll pretend it never happened." "Break up then. You can go live with them," I said before turning off my phone. Ethan knew full well how much I hated my father for what he did to my mother, for neglecting me my whole life. And now he was asking me to apologize to him. After that day, neither Ethan nor I contacted each other. I assumed he had silently accepted the breakup. Before I knew it, the day of my college classmate's wedding arrived. I had promised to be there, so I went. When I got to the reception hall, there was only one seat left at my classmate's designated table. Without looking too closely, I sat down. "Ava, you finally made it." The person sitting next to me was Ethan. Before I could respond, another, equally unwelcome voice chimed in. "Sis, you're not still mad, are you?" Sitting on the other side of Ethan was Chloe. It turned out the bride was Chloe's high school desk mate, and they had specifically invited her. Ethan had tagged along with her after finding out the groom was my college classmate. Out of respect for the wedding, I didn't want to make a scene, so I just managed a polite smile. Ethan sat beside me, chattering on about how much he had missed me. He said he knew he was wrong that day and begged me not to be angry anymore, explaining that he hadn't contacted me to give me space to cool down. I just ate my food in silence, ignoring him. After the wedding ended, I was about to say goodbye to the newlyweds and leave, but I stumbled as I stood up. My head was spinning. Ethan quickly reached out to steady me. He looked at me with concern. "Ava, let me take you home. You don't look well." I pushed his hand away. "Move, I can take care of myself." I walked out on my own. Ethan, unwilling to let it go, followed me all the way to the parking lot, grabbing my arm. A hint of anger was in his voice. "Ava, are you done with this? You said you wanted to break up. Fine. I gave you time to cool off. Now I've swallowed my pride and I'm begging you. How much longer are you going to keep this up?" "That's right, sis," Chloe chimed in, having followed us out. "Brother Ethan hasn't been eating or sleeping well because of you. Stop giving him such a hard time." "I don't need your fake concern," I snapped back. Ethan finally lost his patience. Fine. Let's just break up then." With that, he turned and walked away. Chloe shot me a provocative glance before quickly following him. My head was still aching. I got back to my car, planning to go home and rest, when I heard a knock on my window. Thinking it was Ethan again, I said impatiently, "Haven't you had enough?" The knocking continued. I looked up and saw an unfamiliar yet vaguely familiar face. "Hello, Ava's classmate. I noticed you weren't feeling well earlier. It's probably not a good idea for you to drive right now." Seeing my confused expression, he continued, "Oh, right, you might not remember me. I'm Liam Dean. I was 2 years behind you at the university. I'm a doctor now. I can take you to my hospital. It's nearby." After saying this, he took out his business card. His words jogged my memory. I had seen him at the reception earlier. My headache was getting unbearable, so I tossed him my car keys and moved to the back seat. Liam drove my car slowly away from the hotel, unaware that Ethan was watching the entire scene from his own car across the street. A new message came through on my phone from Ethan. "Ava, have you thought it through? Are you really sure about breaking up?" I silently muttered, "Idiot," then deleted the message and his contact number. Liam took me to the hospital. The doctor said it was just exhaustion from being overworked lately, nothing serious. He advised me to get some proper rest. After leaving the hospital, Liam offered to drive me home, but after a moment's thought, I declined. Liam took a step back. "Then how about we exchange contact info? That's not too much to ask, is it?" In the end, I added him on a messaging app. Time flew by, and before I knew it, a month had passed. Over this month, my friendship with Liam gradually deepened. I learned that he had actually known who I was since his first day of college. He had come to the city alone for his studies. After taking a taxi from the train station to the campus, he realized his wallet and phone had been stolen. He asked the taxi driver to leave his contact information, promising to pay him back later, but the driver didn't trust him and started shouting about calling the police. At that moment, as a young man standing at the school gate, his face was flushed with embarrassment, completely at a loss, until I stepped in and paid the fare for him. He had asked for my contact information to repay me, but I didn't give it to him. Yet in that moment, I had left a deep impression on him. Later, he found himself unconsciously paying attention to me, gradually developing feelings for me, until I officially started dating Ethan. Only then did he give up. He never expected to run into me again at the wedding, let alone find out that I had broken up with Ethan. He was so overjoyed he couldn't sleep that night. Although Liam was great, I didn't want to jump into another relationship so soon. I turned him down, but he just shrugged it off. "It's okay. We can be friends first." Life went on quietly, punctuated by occasional pleasant surprises from Liam. One day, while scrolling through my social media feed, I saw that Chloe had posted again. It turned out Ethan had taken her on a trip to the Maldives. It suddenly reminded me that traveling to the Maldives had always been my dream. During college, even though my family was well off, my father kept me on a tight budget. After I graduated and started earning my own money, I had always wanted to go there with Ethan just once, but every time something would come up for him. As the trip got postponed again and again, my excitement for it slowly faded. In the end, we broke up before I ever got the chance to go. Now, less than 2 months after our separation, the man who was always too busy suddenly had time to accompany Chloe to the Maldives. How ironic. But it didn't matter anymore. I figured Ethan and I would probably never cross paths again. One ordinary night, I received a call from an unknown number. I hung up immediately, but the caller was persistent, dialing again and again. Frustrated, I finally answered. There was a long silence on the other end, and just as I was about to hang up again, a familiar voice came through. "Honey, it's me." It was Ethan, and he sounded drunk. "Honey, please don't be mad at me anymore, okay? Darling, when are you coming back? I miss you so much, and I'm feeling really sick." His voice was so pitiful I could almost picture him with red-rimmed eyes. Back when Ethan was climbing the corporate ladder, there were always social events, and he would often come home completely drunk. Once home, he would complain about his head hurting, then get all clingy, wrapping himself around me while calling me darling and whispering sweet nothings. I would scold him while feeling sorry for him, and I'd make him hangover soup, hold him, and massage his temples. He would just giggle foolishly, saying he had the best wife in the world, that he was the happiest person alive. I didn't want to hear anymore. I hung up the phone. I opened my social media only to see a video of Chloe partying at a bar. It seemed Ethan only remembered me when there was no one else around to take care of him. I gave a self-deprecating smile. The next day, Liam invited me to go to the zoo with him. Hearing the knock on my door, I went to open it while putting on my coat. When the door opened, standing outside was Ethan. He looked haggard, with stubble on his chin and bloodshot eyes. I didn't want to see him. Just as I was about to close the door, he pushed his way in. "Ava, look. This is the coral ornament from the Maldives you always liked. I bought it for you. I didn't take it." He seemed flustered, fidgeting. Then he added, "Oh, right. Yesterday, I saw the watch I gave you in the trash can in the master bedroom. Did you forget to wear it? Here, I brought it to you." "Ava, I've missed you every single day you've been gone. I haven't dared to sleep in our bedroom at night, afraid of catching your scent. I only went in there yesterday after getting drunk and saw the watch. Ava, I truly know I was wrong. Please don't be angry with me anymore. Can we start over?" Before I could respond, Liam's voice came from outside the door. "Ava, I've come to pick you up." Ethan saw Liam and suddenly flew into a rage. He dropped the box in his hand, grabbed Liam by the collar, and raised his fist. However, he was no match for Liam, who worked out regularly. Liam easily pushed him away, causing him to stumble. "Ethan, what are you doing?" I shouted. "What's your relationship with him?" he demanded. "Exactly what you see. You'd better leave now, or I'm calling the police." After I said that, I had Liam push him out. After closing the door, there was no sound from outside. By the time I had gathered my things and went out, Ethan was gone. This time I thought, it must really be over between us. On my 28th birthday, I officially started dating Liam. Although he's 2 years younger than me, being with him just feels so comfortable. He understands everything about me, my sensitivity, my fragility, all my little quirks. I thought, since we've met, why not let myself go and give it a try? Maybe this time, the ending will be a happy one. When my father found out that I had broken up with Ethan and was dating an ordinary doctor, he was furious. He even threatened to disown me. After all, in his grand plan, I was meant for a strategic marriage alliance. He had never approved of me being with Ethan until Ethan was promoted to general manager, since many of our family's projects now depended on his company. With some persuasion from Chloe, my father had reluctantly agreed to our relationship. Somehow, Ethan found out that I was fighting with my family over Liam and showed up at my company's underground parking lot again. As I approached my car, I saw him standing by the door. Not wanting to talk to him, I was about to get in my car and leave when he suddenly grabbed me. "Ava, I know your father doesn't approve of you being with Liam. Clearly, I'm the best choice for you. We know each other so well, we have a history, and your father has already given us his blessing. Let's go get our marriage license right now, okay? Ethan, what is this act? When you and Chloe were playing house, did you ever think about me? Stop making me sick. He looked completely innocent. I've always treated Chloe like a sister. Taking care of her was only because of you. Oh, you're really good at taking care of her, aren't you? So good you took her straight to bed. He was startled, seemingly caught off guard that I knew. He instinctively retorted, "That was just an accident." He was about to say more when someone emerged from the back seat of my car. It was Liam. "Mr. Myers always has time to explain things, but you'd be better off taking care of your dear sister." Ethan, furious, shoved Liam, and Liam dramatically fell to the ground, shouting, "Help! Myers is hitting people! Ava, call the police for me, quick!" Ethan pointed at Liam, stammering, You, before finally storming off. After Ethan left, I leaned against the car door and gave Liam an amused look. All right, he's gone. Aren't you going to get up? Liam lay on the ground, playing coy. I fell. I'm not getting up unless my girlfriend helps me. I reached out and pulled him up. Once he was on his feet, he immediately wrapped me in his arms. Ava, it's so wonderful to be with you. Thank goodness Ethan was so blind. It let me stumble upon this incredible luck. I nestled into his embrace, quietly listening to his heartbeat, and thought to myself, so this is what happiness feels like. And I was at work one day when I suddenly got a call from the police. They had discovered that my mother's death was not a suicide, but a homicide. It turned out that after my mother found out about my father's affair, she had been constantly arguing with him, but he refused to change. Over time, my mother became disheartened and decided to divorce him, demanding that he leave with nothing, or else she would expose him to the media. Upon learning this, my father, driven by malice, conspired with his new wife. They took advantage of a moment when my mother's guard was down, pushed her off the building, and then staged the scene to look like a suicide. I had never hated my father as much as I did in that moment. Even though he had never loved me, even though he had an affair and another family, he was still my father. I had always held on to some last shred of hope for him. But now that glimmer of fantasy was shattered. Soon, my father and stepmother were arrested. Whether it was out of guilt or some other reason, my father transferred all of his shares to me after he was imprisoned. His only hope was that I would visit him in prison, but I didn't go. I could never forgive him. After my father and stepmother were arrested, Chloe's position in the company became precarious. Everyone sided with me. I heard that Chloe went to see Ethan, hoping he would help her get a job at his company, but Ethan refused, saying he wouldn't help the child of a murderer. Chloe apparently had a breakdown after that. However, I no longer cared or was concerned about any of it. A year later, Liam and I got married. On our wedding day, Ethan also came. He brought a necklace he had won at an auction, saying he had originally planned to put it on me himself, but now he would give it as my wedding gift. He said a lot more. He said the reason he got so close to Chloe was because they had both grown up in an orphanage. He felt that only Chloe could understand his sensitivity and his feelings of inferiority. He believed that I, having always been a rich girl, secretly looked down on him. At first, he only helped Chloe to prove to himself that he was capable of helping others. Gradually, he began to enjoy the process of belittling me and being idolized by her. Although he would regret it every time he saw me upset, in the moment of putting me down, he felt a thrill. With Chloe's constant encouragement and flattery, he grew to enjoy that feeling. It never crossed his mind that I would actually leave him, nor did he ever seriously consider being with Chloe. He believed that as long as he apologized, I would eventually come back to him because he had been there for me during my darkest times, and he saw himself as irreplaceable. Hearing all of this, I could only sigh. None of that matters anymore. It seemed that only in that moment did he truly realize that there was absolutely no possibility for us anymore. He then said, "Sorry to bother you," and left, looking completely dejected. My married life with Liam has been very happy. Liam comes from an ordinary family, but his parents respect me greatly and never interfere in our lives. After we got married, when I said I wanted to enjoy life for a couple more years before settling down, Liam would make plans, arrange his time, and accompany me on travels all over the world. Over these past 2 years, we've visited many places, including, of course, the Maldives, which I had always longed for. After traveling so much, I finally realized that the destination isn't what's important. It's the person who is with you. Later, when our life had stabilized, I wanted to start a family. Liam came home from work one day and said he had run into an old acquaintance at the hospital. Just as I was wondering who it could be, he told me it was Ethan. It turned out that after I got married, Ethan had become completely demoralized. He started drinking heavily every day, which caused his company to lose several major clients. Eventually, he was fired. Without a job, he spent his days drinking at home. His life turned completely upside down. Recently, he had been feeling unwell and went to the hospital, where he was diagnosed with advanced stomach cancer. Hearing this, I felt nothing. Back when we were still together, we had many arguments over his drinking. Every time I advised him not to drink so much at social events, he would blame me for being inconsiderate, saying that in the business world, you can't always control things. Now, he was just reaping what he had sown. Liam finished explaining Ethan's condition, and seeing my lack of reaction, he hesitantly added, "Actually, there's one more thing. Ethan asked me to persuade you to go see him. I have no objections, but you should do what you feel is right." Although he said he had no objections, he looked a bit nervous. Amused, I pinched his cheek. "What are you thinking? I'm not going to see him. He's actually quite pitiful if you—" I cut him off. There are no ifs. From the day Ethan and I officially broke up, there would never be any ifs between us again.